Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the Rewatch podcast, presented by the Terrible Video Gamers Club. I'm your host, Tyler Schatz, who also has a 99.8% match of DNA between humans and angels. Joining me are one Stephen Howard.
Who is starting this podcast like Misato starts her days.
One Amanda Howard.
Who thinks she's like Pen, just concerned about the breakfast situation.
One Josh Cox.
Couldn't come up with one. Here I am.
And last but never ever least, one Gary Delaney.
Conspiracy theory number one.
Oh, already.
Commander
Wow, we're
Kara
starting.
is the pan-ultimate villain of the series.
Who?
Kara?
Blah, blah, blah.
Wait a minute. So,
We discussed
Shinji's
it going
dad.
into... You
Shinji's
asked his
dad.
name before we started the episode, and we told you what his name was before the episode even started.
I wrote it down. Did I
Ikari.
misspell it?
Ikari.
Ikari.
No, you misspelled
Oh.
it and mispronounced it.
I'm a terrible person for not... whatever. Anyway, I stand by my point. Anyway, back to you, Tyler.
Okay. Well, we are here to discuss 3 episodes this time from the Neon Genesis Evangelion show. Episode 5, 6, and 7. So starting off with episode 5, what do we got, JC?
Episode 5, Ray 1 in the US, or Ray Beyond the Heart. Ray Ayanami, the pilot of Evangelion Unit 0, is scheduled to undergo another activation test following a horrible accident nearly a month earlier. Shinji makes attempts to understand Ray and her close relationship with his father.
All right. So I wanted to throw this out here right off the bat because I know we've had this come up a couple of times in our recordings. I did pay attention this time, and they called it the first children when Ray was talking about her situation there. Because we've had the question of, is it first child or first children, or what do they say? So I heard the first children, and she was the first one chosen. But
Yeah,
and
that
also-
follows with the Netflix re-release and all that. So supposedly this the original Japanese is children. So they originally fixed it, quote unquote, and now they've decided to put it back to match that. But it just sounds unnatural to us.
yes.
Glad you're getting the full experience as well with your version.
I'm having all sorts of fun with my version of learning to turn different audio things on or off for when the text will now start appearing on there and everything.
There you go.
And the other thing I wanted to kind of call out, which was interesting, was we finally learned why that hand was jammed in the wall there from the Evangelion.
Hey.
So I'm going to just throw this over right away because I don't have questions for about most of the stuff that I write down here. It's just a lot of different talking points from the episode. So I'll, as usual, kind of just throw this back over to Steven, let him kind of start off.
So I do actually have one to start off, a big question for this episode for the group, and that's how does the group feel about Shinji's I guess interaction with Ray going into her apartment and that entire scene in the apartment, and then going down into the elevators. I watched it twice. I watched it once just because my wife didn't want to watch it with me at first, and so I watched it by myself at first. And then the second time I actually watched it with her, and I'll be quite honest, I felt a little awkward watching it with her almost, and she made a couple comments about it as well, but I guess it struck me as, and I'll get to everyone else, my overview of that was, it's basically what happens is he goes into her apartment because he doesn't get a knock on the door, and like any good cartoon character, if someone doesn't answer the door, you just go in and explore their house. And so that's what he does. And he finds a pair of glasses, and then Ray comes out naked because she was taking a shower, as people tend to do in their houses. And he falls in a pair of underwear of hers and touches her breast and all that sort of stuff. And it's I think it's made to feel overly awkward, specifically because she doesn't react very strongly to it. It's just, get up, this is fucking stupid, let's move on. And then you get to the scene just a little bit later where he's going down the elevator with her, and at that point he insults his own dad, and then she turns and slaps him. And I feel almost like it's trying to distinguish that she doesn't care so much about herself or her own privacy, modesty, however you want to put that. She cares a lot about Shinji's dad, not much about herself at all. So I guess I will start with Tyler.
So yeah, you kind of hit on the two different viewpoints, but I kind of came at it from like we have Shinji, who it feels like has never really been around anyone else his entire young life, because it was just strange. Like in our culture, we view it probably weird as people just knocking on a door and then just walking straight into a house, like and everything like that, of just invading people's privacy like that. So it's just like it doesn't seem like he's been around people or even been around the female of his kind there either. So it's just like he doesn't know how to kind of interact. But then also from the same side too, it was Ray of just like the cold, like stoic, or not stoic, just like stone face of just like, I don't really care. I'm not an emotional person here. What are you doing here? Okay, get away from me, and stuff like that. And then also too, you find out that little backstory about her and Shinji's dad, why she has such a kind of admiration, I think, for Shinji's dad. So when Shinji, who obviously has had a different experience with his dad compared to her, starts talking bad about his dad, she takes that as an offense to him and turns around and slaps Shinji. Gary.
Okay, I want to circle back to the fact that I think I was going to ask this question is that Steven, you and Amanda are watching the show separately from now on, correct?
No,
Like,
no, that's not.
You put a barrier down the center of the room and said, we cannot interact with one another.
I believe this was Stephen asked me at one point, "Hey, want to watch the episode?" And at the time, I didn't really want to watch it because I was doing other stuff. And then so Stephen took that as I didn't want to watch it with him and watched it without me. And then he watched it again with me because he is kind as this.
Oh,
Because I know there were some concerns last time about the reactions of Steven giving things away. Has he taken steps to tone himself down?
He's trying, and I'm learning just not to look at him because honestly, there's been a couple times specifically this last week where I've been thinking things and looked up, and Steven just read my mind, like just pulled the information out of my head. And I'm realizing the same goes in reverse. Like he doesn't even have to react, and I can look at him and just be like, "Oh, why did you think that?" Like now I know what's going to happen.
In general, if you're around me, just not looking at me is probably a better solution. So,
I don't know. I still like his company, so I don't know. We might kind of do it half and half because I watched the first 2 episodes with him, but I watched the 3rd episode by myself, and it was a very different experience. So we'll see.
Okay. Anyway, circling back to the topic, which was the interaction in the apartment. I think first of all, this fucker's got military clearance, and he has to deliver a military access card. So I feel like you don't just leave it in the mailbox. You gotta hand deliver it. Second of all, I'm wondering if this lady has like memory issues, because it wasn't just the fact that she was cold and like blah whatever. He told her, "Hey, I have your access card," and she completely ignored it, and as if she like blacked that out, or she's had some, other than this, robot effing craziness, she probably has some other shit in her life that she's blacks out, like having dudes in her bedroom that she just blacks out. That's not even gonna call it full conspiracy theory because I don't want to put that into blocks. But anyway, JC.
Yeah. So it's, to me, it reads like a send up of the whole anime tropes. Like this is one of the first times that we've had the references of like, oh, more fan service coming for the next episode. This is the first time I feel like Eva really takes a step towards kind of lampooning it almost directly, where here's the teen main character protagonist walking into the girl's home, and he's already been staring at her. They've talked about her bazongas and her supple calves and everything earlier with the students. And here's this moment that he's gonna have the scene where bras and panties fly up, and he lands on her and cops a feel accidentally, and and she just is completely stone-faced. Like, you get none of the typical anime reaction from that scene where the girl freaks out on him, and it's just this heightened emotional thing and this whole panic thing. Instead, it sits there, no music in this scene as well, where it just lingers on how awkward and how terrible it is, and then it's just, you don't feel comfortable through any of it. There's none of the typical titillation that would happen with that sort of thing. So, and yeah, you mentioned as well that like there are signs that she maybe has some sort of actual issues where like there, you walk in, there's blood on the pillow, there's all sorts of bloody bandages just kind of littered throughout the room. Her apartment's a complete wreck. Yeah, we had referenced Masato's potential if her living style was a sign of depression. I would say Ray's definitely looks to be more like that. It's just a complete train wreck.
There wasn't anything on the walls either, was there? Like, it was just like a blank canvas.
Not that I recall. Yeah, just like actual trash on the floor, trash outside of her place, and I noticed like the dishes were completely filled up in the sink, things like that. Yeah. Amanda?
I would really agree with that because my reaction this entire scene was just cringe, awkward. Is this over yet? Seriously, like just draw it out because I was like, please, okay, we get it. Moving on. How I can see exactly what's going to happen as soon as he like falls and everything's flying, and I was like, really? Okay, we're still drawing out. And her reaction is very much, can you please get up now and move on? So I think I don't remember which one of you guys pointed out. It is a very, I think Stephen did. It was a very good point about she did show much more emotion when he talked about his father than anything else before that. But I do wonder, she's supposed to be 14, right?
I think they
She's
all
just,
are, all the
think
main
so, yeah.
characters.
that's what I thought. And I was like, I did have this moment when she was walking, when he was walking through her apartment, and I was like, a 14-year-old living by themselves the first time. God, how did you know how to take care of yourself entirely?
Sure.
But I mean, we've seen that she's going through a lot, and we've seen that Shinji's only been there for a little while, and how much is he going through post-traumatically? But yeah, my reaction, Steven's right. I 100% was making comments of like, oh my God, please. Just, I was cringing the entire scene. Like, I was over it very quickly.
And I guess one of the things that I would say as well is I didn't necessarily, when I saw her room and the state of distress it was in, uh, my first thought didn't go specifically towards depression or anything to that extent. More of how this girl was seriously, massively injured, and apparently they just let her coalesce on her own, bloody bandages and all, in her room in some slum. Like, how much do they care about this girl? Like, so I get, and one of the things I guess we kind of skipped over too is what do these glasses mean? Why is she so attached to these glasses? And we see that a couple times in the next couple episodes. That she's very attached to these glasses that Shinji actually had picked up. That was the reason why she walked over to him. Was he picked up a pair of
Explained
glasses?
who the glasses were.
What?
I thought they're his dad's. It's Shinji's dad's glasses, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
It's already explained whose glasses they are, but Shinji just doesn't know it.
Yeah.
It's the opening to this episode has the scene where with Unit Zero going berserk, and her entry plug gets
That's right.
ejected, and then that's when Gendo runs out and physically is burning his hands to open up the entry plug and showing more actual action toward helping somebody than we've seen all of the entire episodes combined.
Yeah.
And then as part of that, the glasses fall into the LCL, and I presume melt somewhat and then just shatter sitting there. So yeah, she seemed to have kept those as some sort of memento.
Oh, you are right. Good call on that. I, for some reason, divorced that in my head. But it was, I don't know. It just struck me as very strange to have, especially the bloody bandages. Like, someone had to have been changing those bloody bandages for her, or assumedly she was taking out supplies for bloody bandages, and someone would have been thinking, "Hey, what's she doing?" Apparently, no one did. Apparently, they just let it ride.
Well, I am kind of surprised that, like, while they obviously aren't really caring about or taking any steps for the mental well-being of their pilots, but you'd think the physicality of them would be a big thing. Like, if she's changing her own bandages, like, you'd think that they'd be at the very least making her stay overnight in a hospital until she's like better, or coming in regularly to get her bandages changed by them or something.
Are you sure? Like, could if she was was amputated without a leg, she could probably still run this giant effing mech, right? Like, so they don't actually really need to worry about her.
Okay, well that's terrifying,
Physical
Gary.
ability.
You're not necessarily wrong, and I have not considered that.
Brain in a jar. It's all we need is a brain in a
Oh
jar.
God.
A whole new take on RoboCop 2.
I think that's the original RoboCop.
No?
RoboCop is only a real man for like half a movie, or not even that, probably a quarter of a movie. Anyway, continuing on outside of RoboCop.
He's more of a complete person in the original RoboCop than it is in RoboCop 2. The drug dealer is just literally the brain in the jar.
Oh,
Smart.
critical thinking about RoboCop.
Hey. It's a classic, okay? Do you have anything else then, Steven, you wanted to kind of touch on?
No, for that episode, that was the major one. That was the big major point.
Amanda, did you have anything you wanted to go over?
I was hoping to get a little more of Ray's backstory. We didn't quite get there. I liked the views of Shinji kind of thawing out a little bit here after that whole the previous episode where he basically ran away. He's now clearly made this decision. He is here. So he's thawing out a little bit. We're seeing a little more of him, dare I say, smiling, which I'm sure we'll take care of that in a few episodes. I wrote, "Oh no, pen," but I don't remember why I wrote that. Steven, what happened?
It was the hot sauce. The hot
Oh
sauce.
yeah, Miss Mitsuto can't cook.
Yeah. Oh, she's
That was
totally
why.
content with her cooking.
Maybe I just
I
have
was-
no soul, but I just like I is Pen supposed to be there for comic relief? Like,
I
I
love
am-
Pen Pen. Are you hating on Pen Pen?
I
I'll
do
fight
hate
you.
on Pen. Just
Steven
because
really
Steven
loves
is so adamantly a fan of Pen. Now he's my number one villain.
Anti-pen.
Done.
Guns
Yeah.
drawn.
Yeah.
Can't quote Hamilton about pen, Steven. That's a little extreme.
No, all of those scenes at Masato's place feel like they're played for comic relief, which is just super weird to be juxtaposed with everything else. Because even the scene leading up to Shinji going to Rei's apartment is Masato being super teasing with him, like, "Oh, you see something you like on that ID card, Shinji?" Just like very playful, that super jangly loop that plays there musically in the background every time they're at her place. It always is this shockingly upbeat comedic little situation in her apartment every time, to then especially then cut directly to the outside view of that super dilapidated rundown apartment building where Ray's at. It's always weirdly juxtaposed against everything else in this whole show.
I really thought at first, I was like, they are making her like total opposites, like at work versus home. But honestly, the more I watch, the more I'm like, you know what? You're a different person at work than you are at home. Like, I honestly totally get that. And she works a very serious, important job, and like you do see little tidbits of her personality in that job, but like very different at home.
Makes me wonder if she has the kind of the mentality work hard, play hard, which I mean that gets a lot of kind of scorn because it's become a joke, but it's a real thing too. A lot of people that work really fucking hard go home and drink really heavily and party the hell up.
I did write down just what I thought was interesting. This has nothing really major bearing, but I did notice when they were testing the EVAs, there was an image it kept showing of the left and right synapses on the side of the image, and I just thought it was interesting that the left and the right, like one of them was like more like almost shattered. It looked more triangular, and the other side was more blocky. It was like they were accounting for the different side, the left and the right sides of the brain. Remember, they were supposed. It's been a long time since I've learned this in school, but like supposedly the different sides of your brain kind of focus on different things. I wondered if that was meant to be something about that or not.
It's a cool
But I
note.
thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I feel like I have to go back and watch that scene now.
Yeah.
I'll just screenshot it for you guys. So that's all I
If we
have.
figure out how to screenshot Netflix, please let me know, because I want to get one in the next episode of Pen staring up at the blackout sky.
Oh,
That'll be my background on all my PCs now.
You said that was everything then, Amanda? Okay. Do JC, what do you got?
Just kind of a touch point with everybody else who's kind of new to the show. Shinji gets slapped because he's of the question that we mentioned that it was disparaging his father to Rei. And the question was, don't you have any faith in the work your father's doing? He says, of course I don't, not in a father like him, and gets slapped. At this point, as viewers, do we have any faith in Commander Ikari's work? I mean, clearly lots of people are believing in his sort of vision, his idea that he needs to be running the show and both this NERV thing and whatever this human instrumentality council thing is going on. So just kind of getting a read of the room of how we feel about him at this point. Steven?
I think that's a fantastic question because I'll be honest, I have a lot of faith in his ability to get crap done. Dude is a sociopath. He will throw you under a tank so that it can move 5 more feet if he needs to. And you know what? That's going to get the tank to where it needs to go. Do I have any faith in his ability to care for his subordinates? Anyone specifically? Probably not. Well, I wouldn't even say probably not, as it's been shown. No. But for his ability to get crap done, oh, hell yeah. Dude's efficient. Dude is not just efficient. Dude is ruthless, cunning, and conniving. Like, yeah, I have faith in his ability to get crap done. Gary.
As someone who knows nothing about anything coming forward, I would say that maybe cinematically, they decided to only show certain parts of his day when he's being a condescending dick, when he's being very heartless. For all we know, he goes back to his apartment and he just cries. He's just a crier, and he loves Hallmark movies.
The big empath, yeah.
In a bath. just a warm bubble bath and some Hallmark movies to end his day. Anyway, Tyler.
I'll try and land a little more away from Gary's point of view there, but I feel like that, yeah, they show like he's somebody who gets stuff done, but at the same time, it's like, it doesn't quite seem like stuff has been going right because of him. It's more like in spite of him almost. Like, Misato seeks out his approval to basically go, that never mind, that's next episode. I mean, we'll talk about that here or whatever, but it's just, it seems like everything so far has just been like, obviously there has to be somebody who, in a lot of these operations, I'm sure, at least a lot of what shows show us, there has to be some driving force character who basically pushes stuff forward regardless of whether or not everybody else likes the way he's doing it. So I think for that though, like he is that kind of he's been shown to be, at least for that kind of a character of like, you may not like him, but he is getting stuff done or at least moved forward.
Very good. That's all I had on my stuff.
All right, Gary, do you have anything for us?
I think it was mentioned in the last episode that we recorded about very effing loud bug noises. And I noticed that in the track scene again, like, hey, we're outside. Like, we're just gonna
leave cicadas alone. What do you have against cicadas?
Noises.
It's so loud. Like, it would be great if it was like some background noise, but it's like like when it came in, I had probably the exact same thought of Gary. I was like, Jesus, this thing is loud. Just put it more.
It is line level with dialogue is how loud it is. Like, it is very, very loud. So yes, that's what I noticed, and I'm sure it's not going to get fixed. It's just going to continue to be an issue. I guess that answers the question with Tyler's, ultimate 4K version that they didn't remaster some of the audio or anything.
It's just a Blu-ray disc. It's not the ultimate 4K. I couldn't find a 4K edition to buy.
That'll be for whenever we get into the remastered, the recreated versions.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this might be a problem with people with just amazing sound systems, because I have no problem with this whatsoever. Maybe you should just get on our level and get like a 1990s level sound system, guys.
Yeah, do you still have any wired Apple earbuds laying around? Just stick those in and
I'll go see
embrace Eva.
I'll see how awesome my TV sound system actually is. Just unhook all the surround sound stuff from it.
Oh, that's great. If you have a PlayStation 4 controller laying around, plug that in. All sound on a PC defaults to sending it through the controller. It's so dumb.
There you go. I'll go out and purchase one of those.
Specifically for this, just for
Right.
the cicadas. You can get
Just
to the
for-
cicada controller.
Just for
Okay, so when
Yeah.
it plays, does it make the rumble pack go? Because that would be even better.
Oh yeah,
If it's
I
just
would.
like
Yeah.
cicadas and the rumble pack just starts like vibrating on the table.
That would be kind of funny.
give it time. Somebody on the internet will have done that by
Right.
now.
Ugh. Just the internet. Just it never ruins anything. I think you guys kind of joked about it, but it was revealed that they're fighting a near human enemy, like a nearly biologically human enemy.
Similar DNA to humans. Yeah, that's my comment there. That 99.8% match to humans.
So if no one has anything else at the end of the end of the episode, that was my other question. Does anyone have anything before the end of the episode? Otherwise, I'll jump to my.
It was one thing where like they talk about the sharing DNA things. Like Masato starts to say like, "Oh, so that means," and then Ritsuko cuts her off to be like, "It just means we don't really know what we're doing yet. Like we don't really know what that means." So it's definitely there. It's weird that there are similarities, but also technically like 40% of human DNA is shared across bananas. So like there's a lot of similarities out there in the world naturally too. So it's yeah,
bananas. BANANES.
that's right.
Because you ain't no
I guess-
hollaback girl.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to note before we move on to the next episode is the shape of the angel that they. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss something?
I'm not on the next episode, but anyway, Shape of
Oh,
the
you're
Angel,
not.
go.
I
Well-
thought you were. No. I thought you were going to move on to the.
I think he was
just-
going to wrap up the finale part.
I did just want to call out
That's
too that Pen's name tag is just Pen squared. I thought that was
Yes.
hilarious.
Oh, I didn't catch that. That's awesome.
Nope.
Every time Pen comes on the TV, Steven's like, Pen!
A bird.
The floor is yours, Gary.
Okay, anyway, I, as someone who hasn't seen this show and perfectly new, first time watching it, I thought it was very crazy that as the mech emerges from the ground, it immediately shoots a railgun at the core of the mech. Like, it knew exactly where the mech was coming out, and it knew exactly where to hit it. And so my end of the episode conspiracy theory is that there is a mole. Like, the enemy knew where the defensive procedures were. They knew where the mech was going to emerge. And personally, I think the mole is Shinji's father. Going back to the beginning of the episode,
All
I think
right,
Shinji's
all right.
father is secretly the mole.
Gary,
Okay.
just so you know, I've been keeping track of how many conspiracy theories you have, so.
So glad somebody is.
That's a great improvement we have over season 1. Is now we have a total of how many conspiracy theories Gary has.
Mhm. 2 this episode already. I'm excited.
Oh boy.
I'm looking forward to the end of the end of this podcast batting average results.
Anyway, that's all I had. That's how I ended this episode, and it was just like, this was way too coincidental. Like, and also really, like, luckily we were watching the next episode. If we had to, like, stop there, that would have been kind of a murderous end. Although I think the post-credits stinger says, he lives! And it's like, okay, well, yeah, obviously he lives, but, I mean, I guess it could kill off the main character in episode 5 of a new show, but whatever. Anyway, that's all I had for this episode. Back to you, Tyler.
All right. We will go ahead and then. Steven.
I had one more thing, and that was just I wanted to note the genesis of how these angels are looking. The first angel that we encountered, I don't know if it was exactly the first episode, maybe it was like the second episode, whatever it was. Ostensibly monstrous, right? Absolutely, it was the monster, the kaiju that we are fighting. I think we even called it a kaiju a couple times. The second angel that we fought, also kind of a kaiju, but looks a little less monstery. It looks a little more, I don't know, laser arms and kind of, it's a different type of thing. Then we get to this next angel. This is the one that we're fighting right now. Not monstery at all. Absolutely nothing monstery about it. The only thing that I guess could be considered monstrous about it was that it shoots a laser and has a giant drill on it. it's interesting to note how these angels are progressing, how they're changing, and that they're not. If you were to just go into this and watch the first episode, you'd think, yeah, it's a kaiju. We're fighting kaiju, and that's not what it is. They are fighting they're definitely something different, although we don't know what it is. They're different.
Steven, do you feel like along with the evolution of the angels, that also there's kind of an evolution of how the evangelicals look? Evangelions look from the first episode on, because I don't think you see Unit 0 until, like, I think you see it early on in some broken pieces, and now I think in these couple episodes, I don't remember where you see as a full unit. But also I think Shinji's mech looks a little more polished. I don't know, maybe it's just how I see it, is that get used to what it looks like, and it looks a little more polished and a little more smoother lines.
I guess I saw that JC wanted to comment on this as well, but I guess it didn't appear massively different to me on the terms of Evangelions. There's definitely differences. Don't get me wrong, 100% you're right there. I don't see it quite as much as a difference in form like you're seeing in the Angels, though.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That it's it feels more like a kind of evolution on a theme rather than like completely different themes that have been showing up, kind of like the Angels are. Steven pointed out as he was kind of counting down the angels that I had written in my notes, the fifth angel appears, but then as he recounted which ones we've seen, this is our third one that we've seen. So it's just one of the lines that I can't remember the guy's name, but the second in command to Commander Ikari has the phone picked up and goes, it's likely the fifth angel that's approaching. So just wanted to point that little note out because had not caught that before.
Because the show tells the story in completely a mishmash fucking order, and we're probably missing two more that'll be explained later this season.
We knew that at least that one angel had appeared from I think even episode 1 when they're saying like, oh, and angels have returned. It's been 15 years. So we knew one was there at some point ago, but that's all I had. Just caught that little note.
I would just maybe comment that the look of the Evangelions kind of getting nicer is probably just the animation kind of starting to get clearer and more centralized to what everything's actually going to look like.
You mean like the third time somebody has to draw the same mech over and over again? They might put a little more detail into it.
It just might happen. It's kind of hard to believe, but it just might happen.
I don't know, man. Episode 2 had plenty enough detail on those Evas to me. Arms getting ripped off.
Sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, unless, much like the show, the artist drew the show out of order too, then of course you never know which is the most experienced Evangelion drawing.
They're making it a whole situation of how anime shows are actually produced and stuff like that. And sometimes it's not the same artist working on the whole show throughout or every part throughout, all that stuff. So that's a whole other conversation there. But we will wrap up episode 5 then and move on to episode 6. Go for it, JC.
Episode 6, Ray 2, or Showdown in Tokyo 3. A new angel invades, striking a critical blow against Shinji. Taking the enemy's abilities into account, Masato crafts a special strategy involving Units 0 and 01, as well as an enormous positron rifle. Shinji also discovers Ray's motive as a pilot.
I just wanted to call out that they have a Panasonic TV in the show. That was clearly shown. And then I think it's kind of like amazing that they are going to basically be stealing Japanese power, all of Japan's power there, with basically a government spin, it seemed like, tied to it of like, oh, you're going to experience a blackout from this time to this time. Don't worry about it. And the fact that there's just like miles and miles and miles of cable just running all towards one centralized location. I thought that was just kind of an insane thing. Go for it, Steven.
I just not a major thing, but just to build off that too, I loved how they had all those transformers out there, and you could see the transformers building up heat. Like everything is just overcooking. Like horrible setup. Don't get me wrong; it's not realistic by any means, but it looks so cool.
I know nothing about electrical engineering, so I just assume that's how power works. But anyway, I also did make a note that like they told the entire city like, oh, there's gonna be a blackout, and that's how, as you said, like that's their government spin. But also like based on the fact of like how much people know, like I wonder if there's just not only just like government disinformation, but there's like different levels of disinformation so that no one has truly the full story. That like the high school kids were like, oh well, yeah, we're gonna go out and we're gonna watch these mechs, and you're the new guy in the mech. But like, does everyone know that they're mechs? I mean, they're supposed to be sheltered underground, so like, how much do they really know? So that's my theory, is that everyone's got a different level of disinformation, so they can see these giant power cables, and some of them might say, oh, it's to power the giant effing mechs. Like, don't you believe in giant effing mechs? Other people is like, no, it's something, some other crazy conspiracy theory in universe conspiracy theory. Tyler.
I was gonna say there's even a line that's mentioned in the next episode that kind of talks about how like the spread of disinformation about everything too. So I'll just kind of save that for the next episode part there. Amanda, did you have something?
I was gonna comment just on the art of this episode. Honestly, it was just really beautifully done, and I was really appreciating it. But it's specifically like, I wrote down just the way that they did the blackout. I don't know what exactly, but the way they did it was really well done, very beautiful. It gave you chills to be like, wow, this is an entire, like, we are used to thinking of Japan as like a very tiny little island compared to like the entire spread of the United States, but like there's a lot of power and a lot of people, and like this, the way they did this was just absolutely beautiful. That's a lot of power. I also wrote down Misato giving out her roles. The way that they did that was really beautiful too. Steven.
I just wanted to agree with you and echo your comment about the beautiful way that they do a lot of these, especially for so much of this having been hand drawn at the time. And I think everyone wants to go, oh, well, all this generated stuff is going to be the future and whatnot. It doesn't it doesn't contain this sort of almost character when you get into it. And you see that in a lot of other animes as well. I'm thinking specifically of the original Ghost in the Shell movie when they have a plane fly over the alley that they're in. Those are sorts of things that I just don't think you get anymore with a lot of this, the new animation. I don't know exactly why that is, but this flavor that you get in hand-drawn anime specifically is just fantastic, and manga as well, because obviously hand-drawn anime manga. So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just wanted to get your comment.
Manga.
Like I said, in a related sense to that, I think this episode also has a lot of very just cool, tiny details about like just the scale of everything that's going on. Like whenever they go to get the positron rifle, Ray gets access to it from inside the Eva opening up the roof. Like, oh hey, here, I'm just gonna grab this real quick. The shield that she later uses to stop the laser from the Angel is, quote, a cast-off from the SSTO program that is single stage to orbit. It's the bottom of a spaceship that would be normally protecting it against like the re-entry heat and everything like that. And so as she's sitting there holding it, you can kind of see that it's shaped like a space shuttle. So just tons of little cool things like that are just, they never really bring much attention to it. It's a single little line about the SSTO program, and I was like, what is SSTO? And I was just Googling other terms like that, and I was like, oh, it's a spaceship. That makes so much weird sense, but lots of awesome little things like that.
And then the 22 layers of armor that protect around the geofront there.
Yep.
I think it's got a giant diamond, as I called it. Has a lot of drilling to go through there.
Right. But it's probably going to go quick. 9 hours or something like that, the countdown was. And
Wasn't
less
it?
than 10 hours.
I thought it was like 17 hours, though. From like when it started drilling till...
Maybe there was...
it was like
the original
Yeah.
At some point, my notes here just have Masato saying, "In less than 10 hours, all 22 layers of armor will be penetrated." So that was. It could have been like after she was enacting some sort of plan, like later on in the thing. I can scrub through the episode here a little bit.
Amanda, did you want to throw out anything for the episode?
Did anybody else think that the drill looked like the light from Independence Day? Because I said it out loud, and Steven gave such a roll of his eyes.
I can see that at the far shot, whenever it's just the little beam headed down. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was going into the city. I was like, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. I've seen this movie. Such a roll of the eyes, and I was totally right. It was bad.
I give that theory more credit than I give any of Steven's other theories.
So, like, should I put my own conspiracy forward? Like, are these the pre-runners of the aliens that attack in Independence Day? Like, when they come back when they've got better weapons?
Possibly. No, these
Anyhow.
before or after. This would be after Independence Day.
Oh, you think so?
Chronologically.
I don't know. I'm not clear.
I'll fact check that detail.
We'll file that away. I did write down, this is closer, more at the end there, but I did enjoy that Rei saved Shinji and Shinji saved Rei. The two of them both saved each other different times, and are at the same like thing at the end. Like, Rei jumped in and saved Shinji, and Shinji saved Rei, and I thought that was wonderful. Also, it might break a little bit. It's a hell of an icebreaker, but I feel like that might break the ice between them.
Just to answer the fact-checking part here, Independence Day was a 1996 movie, so a year after this.
So maybe it's like some alien copycats or something. You know, they're just not quite as good at the technology.
So, but I mean, like, I think doesn't Independence Day take place in real world 1996?
Yes, and this takes place in the near present future.
2015, I believe.
2015.
Yeah.
2015.
The near present.
So,
Recently passed.
I don't know when I don't know the full chronology of the second Independence Day movie to know where that lands up, but
why did everyone think that 2015 was like the future?
Let's just forget that second Independence Day movie ever happened.
Oh yeah, I emotionally blocked that out, and I don't even remember half of that.
I own it. Still have never seen it.
I own it too.
I own a copy of it, never ever watched it.
Steven,
anyway.
Are you okay? I know we spoke of these things.
Oh, I am specifically very much not listening to any talk about this being connected to Independence Day. It is going in one ear and out the other.
So, conspiracy theory: Steven hates America, aka he hates the movie Independence Day.
Jesus.
It's true that we didn't watch it on 4th of July. We watched John Adams.
I even watched it on 4th of July because I'm an American.
It's like a tradition in my house to watch it on the 4th of July.
I watched Gettysburg.
Yeah, we did watch that.
Anyway, we already had this conversation off the podcast about our feelings of what the true 4th of July movie watching experience was.
The only other thing I wrote down was just that I admired, like, Misato. Like, she was the one with a plan. She had her plan. She assigned out her roles. Like, she is so good at her job, and I just love it because, like, if you stereotype what you see outside of work, like, you would think that she would be like a bit of slob, not entirely pulled together, and like she is just the one with a calm, cool head, and she makes plans on the fly, and she is not afraid to assert her authority or take the reins if she doesn't have the authority.
Yeah, it definitely like goes back to Steven's point there. Like, she's kind of a work hard, play hard kind of person there.
Mm-hmm. That's all for me.
All right, Steven, did you have anything further you'd wish to cover?
So I'll be honest, I didn't have anything major about this episode. This episode was a lot of building things and a lot of just getting stuff done to take care of that angel that showed up in the last episode. It's very. I don't think there's too much that's requires massive interpretation. It's all very on the front of it. like Amanda said, I love the artwork in this episode. It's absolutely gorgeous. But no, I guess the parallel is there. Shinji burns his hands, getting Rei out of the pod just like his dad did. So there's the parallel there between the two Ikaris, and I guess that's about the highest level thing here. I enjoy the episode. I don't want to make it seem like I didn't enjoy the episode. I just don't honestly have too much to comment on it.
So Steven mentioned the parallels of the father and the son both opening a flaming hot door handle. Conspiracy theory number 4. They are in fact time clones of one another because they're the same person, just the Shinji went back in time to become his own father.
So
Because they both made the same sacrifice. They both truly are in love with her and did that. And it's the only explanation that makes the most sense right now as to why the hell the father did it. Because he's an asshole in every other measure so far.
Is this like Days of Future Past time travel rules? Are we doing like Terminator 2 rules?
Back to the Future. You have to get your EVA up to 88 miles an hour.
I wish we wrote down every single one of Gary's conspiracy theories so we could go back through and be like, which ones are the top? What are the top 10 craziest ones that are just out there?
Yeah, I think this would almost be number one with a bullet right now.
So if you're wondering, everyone else is like beautiful art style, and what I see is like, what if they're time clones? Anyway, that is all. The only other note I have for this episode is apparently Aranami can maybe pilot Unit 1. It was just an offhand comment. I was like, oh, well, if you don't want to pilot Unit 1, I can. And just next scene, completely just jumps past that. Steven?
But can she? I mean, I think they did that in, is it the last episode? Where the reason why Shinji goes out and gets shot at first is because Rei can't fully sync with her Eva and has to be switched out. So, I mean, you're saying that she's also going to sync with Unit 1. I think it's a legitimate threat. I think she might be able to. But is she? So.
I think it was Shinji has the
person who just doesn't want him to feel that responsibility of being the only mech-capable adult. Sorry, Tyler.
I was gonna say, I think it's mentioned there that Shinji has the higher connection rate with his Eva, as well as wasn't Rei's Eva kind of sort of still damaged or under repair at the start of the episode, or start of this series of episodes.
At the start of the series,
at the start of the series,
being repaired.
But I thought there was some reason why she wasn't able to jump in hers right away.
Well, I think they were doing. Sorry. Continue.
I was going to say that the last episode ended with Unit 0 being activated successfully with Rei, and then as the new angel approaches, that's when Gendo says, "All right, Unit 0, stand down," and he says it's not combat ready. But Ritsuko seems to behave like, "Why aren't you sending Unit 0? She's already up and active." And so because it's his time wife or whatever, he's decided that she's not going to be the one to go into combat. Send in the kid, whatever. I'm alive now, so clearly the timeline worked. So I defeated him. So
send in my younger future self.
Right. I'm just going to keep this conspiracy theory rolling. I love it too much. It all fits.
Don't give him more credence than what he deserves there.
Now I have to outdo myself. Next episode's gonna be tough.
Oh God.
Steven. I managed to come up with one comment on here, and that's the idea that the angel can sense when it's being targeted. It can detect basically the negative vibes being sent at it, which doesn't explain it. Obviously, I don't think it will explain it, but it's pretty cool, and That's how it shoots it from under the ground, or that might be how it shoots it from under the ground. We don't know. It could be a mole, Gary. I apologize.
I was gonna say, I was like, we don't know how this dude is. It's a mole. Like, there's somebody who's feeding it information. Like,
So I was just going to make a comment there that I was wondering if anyone else noticed it. Speaking of the angel and shooting and stuff like that, was the angel making a noise as it was slowly going down, or was that just me hearing what I wanted to hear? Because it sounded like as the angel was slowly descending after being shot, there was some noise coming out of it from those shots there, from that scene or whatever.
You mean like a noise like it's talking to you?
Yeah.
Pain or
Is
something
the
like
angel in the
that.
room with us right now?
I mean, everyone could be touched by an angel at some point in time.
I'll have to listen for that.
But I don't know. Maybe it was just me and my mind still hearing the cicadas.
Okay. That's straight off. You can get extra bits of like hearing all sorts of hidden dialogue, but you have to deal with the loud cicadas during outdoor meetings.
That's why they have the cicadas there.
All right, JC, did you have anything you wanted to cover from the episode?
Nothing that I think we haven't touched on already. Yeah, I did step away for a second, but it sounded like y'all covered the Shinji going to the entry plug for Ayanami. I really enjoyed the line that they had to adjust the positron rifle aiming scope for Earth's rotation. That was just a lot of echoing again what I already mentioned earlier, but just so many cool little things. The giant 1-to-1 scale balloon dummy they have at the opening when they're testing the different things and they just have like the balloon just lift up a balloon gun, and that's how they first say like, oh yeah, it's detecting whenever it's in danger. All right, well yeah, lots of fun things, but no specific other points.
All right. And as we leave with our stoic shot of Pen there in this episode, we move on to episode 7. JC, to you, sir.
Episode 7, A Human Work or the Works of Man. A new nuclear-powered military robot, Jet Alone, goes out of control during a demonstration ceremony and heads toward an almost certain meltdown. With the help of Shinji and EVA 01, Misato takes it upon herself to stop its rampage.
So this is the episode, as I mentioned there earlier, there was like a conversation of Shinji's father and I think a couple other people talking about how they were providing like black ops on providing false data to other people there, which was just like, wow, they're really going hard into this, just kind of keep everybody uninformed about what's going on around them. Steven.
I would include also a little bit later in the episode, they say, oh, they knew about an AT field. Yeah, what's intelligence even doing? They need to get on this. Like they're specifically blocking off a whole bunch of crap.
And then we do hear about other countries mentioned here. I think it's more towards the end of the episode, or is it? Can't remember if it's towards the end or towards like the middle part of the episode where they're on the plane there. And I pulled out the line there that the U.S. is afraid of high unemployment rate there. So the U.S. is apparently still up and going as a country, but who knows how well it is going. JC, why don't you pick up here for what do you got for the episode?
Relatively little because I've unfortunately get a chance to go for a second rewatch, and which is my usual note-taking up pass. Yeah, it is to me. It feels like the first kind of Monster of the Week episode where we're not really dealing with anything hugely plot related. There are still definitely undercurrents moving along at all times. But yeah, the kind of the idea that watching Ritsuko in this episode is first time we really get to see her in her element a lot, where she's kind of revered whenever she stands up in the room, like, oh, it's the great scientist, Dr. Ritsuko Kataragi, I believe. But yeah, she just goes off against this room full of folks saying like, no, this Jet Alone thing is the best, and she just has all these points to try and combat them. And she doesn't seem too perturbed whenever she supposedly loses, but then there's definitely the idea later on of it seems that this was whole thing was sabotaged and set up, and just kind of putting it to the group. Who do you think was kind of behind this whole meltdown? Then was Ritsuko in on it? How much? Misato clearly seemed to be unaware, and Shinji, of course, is just doing Shinji things. But how far do we think this goes? Steven?
It was obviously Commander Ikari authorized it. They have that little meeting at the very end going, the contingency, everything went according to, what is it, the plan or the contingency or whatever it was called. Like, I think it was fairly well hinted at that this was a NERV operation, and they got to the NERV of this fake Evangelion.
Commander Ikari is a double or a triple agent for the being the Panem ultimate villain. He probably was the mole within this other company too. So
This counts as the same conspiracy theory, right?
anyway, still same conspiracy theory. He's still a mole, but now he's a super mole because he's just effing everyone over and no one knows his true allegiance.
And he's
Amanda
also
needs
Time
to-
Shinji.
What?
And
That's
he's
right,
also
he's
Time
also
Shinji.
Time-
And he's a time because he knows the future.
Oh
Like,
boy.
He has to
This is a
put all the
web.
chess pieces on the board. Anyway, I guess I half agree with Steven on Commander Ikari.
This is a tangled web you weave.
We're gonna need to get Gary a big cork board for his wall and a bunch of red strings so that I'll print him off the pictures so he can start keeping track of this because I'm already confused. I didn't think anything when Ritsuko was first going off on her spiel. I was just like, oh well, she's just not gonna put up with this. She's gonna give him a piece of her mind. Until the very end there, after he had he made his clever little comment about talking to a hysterical woman, and I was like, ooh, hilarious. And everyone else laughed because apparently it actually was hilarious. But she had this snide smile, and I was like, huh. And then later on, as soon as Mitsuto realized it was sabotage, I was like, oh, it's got to be her. But seeing that the commander was in on it, my first assumption was just that this gets rid of the competition. He's still in charge of the machines, whether or not that's because he wants the power or because he believes honestly that only he can defeat them. Who knows? Or both. Why not both? But I did find that interesting. I did find that little snide smile of hers interesting because Mitsuto didn't catch it, and she knows her pretty decently. But I didn't think it was very subtle either. Maybe that's just meant for us as the audience to make sure that we pick up on it. Steven?
To be fair to Mitsuto, I think she is down to on her 8th beer at this point in the conference, so she might not be noticing it as a real thing.
She handled those 8 beers pretty well when Crisis breaks out a little bit later, so I think she can handle it. She drinks enough that tells me she's no lightweight.
Fair.
Yeah, and we've seen enough now. After the last episode, I feel like where it was kind of Misato's organization or Misato's ship to run there with the whole setting up the positron and everything. That was her plan, all that stuff. She's not necessarily someone that you're going to get one over on. She's quick on her feet. She's really just kind of can catch up on a lot of details and think outside the box well. So to slip something past her is a tricky thing. But yeah, I could see that with the Ritsuko somehow hiding it even from Misato. It was interesting.
Does anyone else drink her beer? Is it not, in fact, superhero serum that she's drinking?
Is this another conspiracy theory?
Yeah, conspiracy theory. It's not really beer. She's secretly drinking Powerade. She's trying to make people think less of her so she can crush them. Steven, did
Okay.
you have a
So
This
is
is
it-
a weaker conspiracy theory. I don't know if this counts.
I'm trying to figure out here. Is it super soldier serum that she's drinking, or is she drinking something that's being disguised as beer, but it's really just a normal drink?
Finish.
Could be.
She's Popeye.
I don't think it's superhero stuff. I think
Okay.
it's probably maybe it's just Powerade or something else.
Okay.
So no one else is drinking this beer, so no one knows if it's actually beer. Like you're a member of the government. I feel like you could label fake, you could label your energy drinks as beer and no one would know. We're the government. We just make shit happen.
There is enough details there. I'm counting it, but Gary's never been short of those when he needs to back up a conspiracy theory.
Held together by twine and sticks. Steven?
One cool thing I did just kind of pause on here is when it does show. So it does show after they have this little fight, the operating system for the what is it called, JA, being erased. And if you pause on that, as I have done, it actually shows a copyright on the operating system of 2014 to 2015. So I think that's a kind of a neat little thing there. Also, if you'd like to know, there are 1,856 terabytes free memory of a total of 2,048 terabytes.
They had terabytes in the 90s?
They're just looking ahead to their next Call of Duty install.
Yes. Deep cuts.
Yeah, the deep reference of Call of Duty. Yeah, real under the radar.
Yeah.
It's that small indie game nobody's heard of.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else, JC?
Not this time. No, there was one reference that currently escaped me, but if I think of it, I'll come back to it.
All right. We'll throw it over to Steven then. What has he got for us for the episode?
One of the other cool things that I liked in this episode was showing how Masato and the scientist, who I have already said I will never remember her name. I just don't. It slips my mind immediately. So how they deal with their frustration after the conference. Masato's kicking in a locker, and it's like, oh, she's really angry. It's really brutal. And you go to the scientist, and she's like, oh, she seems pretty calm about it. Then it flips to her face. She's slowly burning the manual for the JA with this just look of, I don't know, serenity maybe on her face. It's almost more terrifying than Masato. It was pretty, yeah, I think it was a funny kind of juxtaposition. Gary.
I think maybe that's also a proof of whoever that the crazy lady is, whoever she is in public versus in private.
Masato?
Who's the one who drinks all the Masato? Yeah, okay. I think that's what we're talking about. Okay, because in private she's an alcoholic, but in public she's a well-regarded military figure. Well, she's at this fine dining dinner, she's just quietly keeping to herself, and then as soon as she gets out of eyesight of anyone else, she's like, F this BS, and starts kicking and punching things. Like, she's just someone who very much releases all the emotions when in private. That's how I interpreted it, I guess. Or she just came down from her drunken stupor. Who knows?
I think it's just showing the two different personalities of them. It's kind of cool. But one of the other things, I think one of the major themes of this, if not the theme of this entire episode, is the how Masato wakes up in the morning. She wakes up the first day, and she has apparently she's just wearing some not underwear. What is it? Pajamas. She's drinks a beer immediately. He's having a great old time, and Shinji's like, "Oh my god, she's so disheveled and blah blah blah." And it cuts to the next day when she actually has something to do, and she wakes up and she's like, cut, fit, like all ready to go, and no nonsense. And then back to the last day, and obviously now she's not in the thick of it. She's not going to have to be going to some conference, and she just lets it all down again, whatnot. As she walks out of or as Shinji walks out, he's like, God, how can she be such a slob sometimes and so cool other times? And his friends, who I think it's been pointed out, he doesn't have the greatest personal skills, but his friends point out for him, dude, that means she's letting her guard down around you. That means you're part of her family. And he's like, oh, Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I think they kind of basically say you see her how she really is, like family.
Mm-hmm.
Just a heartwarming end to an episode because we haven't had one of those yet.
Yeah, we get to see one of those patented Shinji smiles. We get like
Yeah.
one per podcast, I think, maybe, if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And my only other comment would be the suit that Masato wears to save the day is really weird, and I don't understand it. It has a big bubble on her back of her head. I don't know if it's for extra hair or I don't know what that's for. So
I guess spacesuit design did not bother me. It was a spacesuit. So tactical exoskeleton outfit or something. It didn't bother me. I'm gonna go look at it now.
All right. Amanda, did you have anything you wanted to touch on?
So this was the episode that I ended up watching without Steven. I watched this in a couple bits and pieces at work on breaks. And it was pretty busy, so I was running a little bit, stopping at a break, watching this. Also, I watched it in English, whereas Steven and I've been watching it in Japanese. I'm sorry, Steven. I didn't actually tell you this before. I can tell you're a little hurt. I am sorry. It was different, but at the time I was like, well, I don't have time for this. Let's go. So I liked it in English as well. It was, but I could tell the translation between what they were saying and the subtitles wasn't quite perfect there. Oh gosh, I just lost my thought. It threw me off because the voices were not what I was expecting. So I had trouble at first understanding entirely what was happening. But the sarcasm was full on. Totally had that. They definitely still have that there. The episode itself, though, otherwise, I didn't take any notes. I was just absorbing it. While also because it was hard to hit pause constantly on my phone to take notes. So, Steven, there's the secret. You just gotta have me watch my phone, then I can't take notes because it's annoying.
All right. Gary, did you have anything?
I had a question, and it was kind of a minor note that was dropped early in the episode that, in fact, the explosion in Antarctica was, in fact, an angel.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I
It
didn't know if
vaporized
that,
the whole continent.
Yeah, like that was one of the things where I was kind of similar to Amanda, like sort of half watching and like trying to take notes, but like it's just going on. And I'm like, oh crap. Like I might need to rewind this because I'm sure it just seems like it was flyby lines of like, oh yeah, this, and it exploded in Antarctica. I'm like, I bet you this is probably much more important.
Yeah, it's very much a kind of a throwaway moment there. Amanda?
Oh, I forgot. See, this is why I should have taken notes. I forgot about this, and I have questions about that. I want more details. When you say vaporized, like, is the entire continent simply gone, or is the continent just burnt to a crisp? Because if it's gone, I want to know what happened. Does that mean the ocean filled back in? Does that mean the ocean levels have gone down everywhere? I need more information here. So I am sure that forthcoming episodes will be bringing that information to us. As
Because the
our
previous theory was an asteroid, right? Previous theory was an
yeah,
asteroid.
like
The
that's what they were
new
told.
information was that it was an angel exploding,
Hmm.
and I'm sure the rest of it.
And did they
I'm
call that
sure
one
that's
second
explained.
impact, or was that first impact? Like this has happened. That's why we're on the third angel, the third, fourth, and fifth angel. We've seen 3, but there was 2 before.
Yeah, so second impact was what previously had occurred as 15 years before the events of what we're seeing in the show. And yeah, they even have the line that the second impact, when Antarctica was vaporized, yes, the textbooks say it was a tragedy caused by a massive meteorite impact, but we found a humanoid object, the first of what we now call angels.
Yeah, and they don't know exactly what's happened, or at least these guys don't have that level of information. Maybe there is more information. Clearly, there's some disinformation about. I am very curious about this backstory. This also was an episode I noticed that every other episode I have learned to accept that they're going to show me. I'd never know what time we're in because it'll show me something that happened and then go back and give me all the backstory. That didn't really happen in this one. Like they actually were pretty straightforward. Just went on a time from point A to point B and just went straight. They're just getting me, luring me into a
Time
false
is
sense of
linear,
security.
man.
Time is a flat circle.
Yes.
Uh,
That was all I had.
That's
Just
all you
this
had?
realization that you now know slightly more about this Antarctica explosion. That
Poor
there
Antarctica.
will be better.
Is that why Pen Pen stays with Misato? He has no home. Oh.
Penguins live in more than just the Antarctic. They live in the
Yeah, but Steven,
Galapagos Islands.
conspiracy theory, keep up.
Keep up.
He's a refugee.
Why else would he put up with that kind of meals?
Because he's family.
That's true.
Finally, the Fast and the Furious references that we needed. It's all about family.
Yes.
We're hitting all sorts of pop culture references again.
Anyway,
All right.
to you, Tyler.
JC, did you remember the final point that you had? Or is
It
it
was just kind of loosely tied into the second impact revelations that we have, is that they fly over Old Tokyo, they call it, on their way to their Jet Alone conference. And it's just was a fun little side note of having Mitsuto looking out the window and going like, I can't believe this was ever once like a bustling city. Just, yeah, fun to see the ruins of what we look to now as like, you know, a giant metropolis, a huge population center, and now it's just a wasteland essentially.
Mm-hmm. Steven, did you have anything further you wanted to talk about?
No, well, maybe. I guess I had, obviously, when we talked a little bit about the conspiracy that obviously affected this Evangelion that they created, a almost an autonomous Evangelion. One of the things that I was thinking about too is how does they do reference, yeah, this stuff is getting out, but how is this stuff getting out from NERV as well? Like, I made the throwaway comment about the AT field, but honest to God, how did the AT field get out? And the knowledge, like the technical knowledge of that get out? That's a fairly, I don't know, it would be like a stealth technology leaking from a country, right? Pretty high end. It's a pretty big deal. And if that sort of knowledge is leaking out from NERV, what else is leaking out? And if NERV has to spend this sort of time on fixing those leaks, are they just a better cover-up agency than they are actually a fighting agency? So I don't know. Tyler.
So my point doesn't really have too much to do with that, but more of like the conspiracy that NERV was the one responsible for sabotaging it. Did they have? Is it possible, or maybe it's to align with Gary's conspiracy theory thoughts here? Like, did they have remote access to the unit there? Because we're told, at least when we're watching, that Masato was told that the password is hope to access the central thing. Well, she types it in and nothing happens there. So I mean, like, you could either A, believe it's just bad computering here, it's a terrible computer, or B, it's really actually a decent computer. It's just NERV is in control of everything there, and they decide we're going to shut it down at this point now instead. To at least throw off Masato there too, of like, oh, well, the password didn't really work, but you still kind of saved us. Something like that. Gary.
Note to self, I need to make a sign for next time that says mole, because as Steven was talking, I was like, well, how did they do this? What it is? I was like, mole, it's a mole. Also, time clone and mole. That's my goal for next time. Anyway, going to Tyler's point about like, did NERV secret control it? I read the end of the episode as saying that perhaps NERV designed the mech to shut down right before it possibly was going to like detonate with a nuclear explosion. Sort of that ongoing joke that in any action movie, the timer on the bomb gets to 1 and then they cut the wire. Like, that sort of thing. Like that's how I read it, because I think in the ominous conversation later on, they're like, oh, well, it went according to plan, except for Masaru like
Sato.
intervened.
Good try. Good try.
Masato intervened. Anyway, that's all I got. Mole. It's a mole, Steven. Mole, 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 mole.
Mole, 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 mole.
Back to you, Mole. Back to you, Steven.
No, I didn't have a massive amount other than that. It is definitely a monster of the week sort of thing. I like that they do throw in some characterization and some major plot items into a monster of the week. So everything's kind of scattered around. You have a bunch of sprinkles thrown around a big ice cream there, and the sprinkles are the real treat. So.
All right, and Amanda, do you have anything else further?
I do not.
All right. Well, I had all my points covered there for that, so we are here at the end of our episode then, recording. What is up next time then, JC?
Next time, it'll be another 3 set of episodes. We're going to start with Asuka Strikes, or Asuka Arrives in Japan. Episode 9, Both of You Dance Like You Want to Win, or Mind Matching Moment. And episode 10, Magma Diver, or Magma Diver.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to Magma Diver when it comes up.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to watch Magma Diver. I'm going to watch Magma Diver.
You always have to be different, Steven. All right, well, that'll do it then for us for this episode here. Like JC said, we will be watching episode 8, 9, and 10 for next time. So, see everyone next time. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.